Now, believe it or not, Democrats also decided to run a woke socialist for U.S. Senate in the great state of Texas. And like most other socialists, cisgender, God is non-binary, James Talafrico has flirted with the idea of emptying America's prisons. Another brilliant idea. Take a look.
We all recognize domestic abuse as violence, but we don't always recognize the ways in which our systems hurt people every day. Poverty is violence. Pollution is violence. And yes, prison is violence. As a government official, I can say the government has a monopoly on violence.
Wow, pretty amazing. And don't forget, he does champion the right of biological men to have access to abortion. I need to go back to school, take more biology classes. Anyway, remember, in a socialist country, you have to make space for political prisoners. Joining us now to respond, Fox News contributor, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. I know you keep talking about crazy. I know you are more optimistic than me, always. I don't see how this freak show, how they're able to convince the American people that this is the path to go down. It's not like your contract with America going back in the day.
Well, I mean, first of all, you're about probably as optimistic as I am if you understand, for example, the clip you just saw was not a political clip. It was a moment of mental health. This guy's nuts. He makes no sense in the real world. Prisons are violence. Well, if that's the case, if we let every single prisoner in America loose, do we think America would be safer? Apparently the Democrats do. Most people think, dropping all the murderers, rapists, killers, armed robbers you can find back on the street probably won't work very good. And so what you have is a big government socialist movement with weird values, which I think the country is going to repudiate this fall in one of the most historic elections in our 250-year history. I think these people, the more folks watch them, the more they realize how really deeply, extreme they are. The woman who won the other day in New York in a primary who said, I don't bring a napkin, I just wipe my hands on the American flag. I mean, how many Americans think you ought to have a member of Congress who wipes their hands on the American flag? This is such a deep, virulent anti-Americanism that I believe the House should adopt a rule that nobody who fits certain parameters should be given a committee assignment, no matter what the Democrats want to do. There's no reason to empower people who are viciously and deeply anti-American by pretending that they're okay.
In off-year elections, historically, the trend has been the party in power will lose seats. Why do I think that all bets are off, that these are uncharted waters? And why do I think that the more the American people know how nuts these people are, I don't care if it's, Talarico, I don't care if, it's Mamdani, I don't care if it's the 35 DSA candidates running around the country, I don't care if it's El Sayed or, a Plattner wannabe in Maine. Once people understand what's at stake, why do I believe that the Trump base gets motivated more than anyone would ever predict or anticipate today?
Well, I think it's bigger than the Trump base. You take an issue like, should men be in a women's locker room and play in women's sports? That's about an 85% no. 85%. You take the issue that's right now in front of about to be in front of the Senate. Should Americans only vote in elections? It's about an 85 to 90%. Should you have to have a voter ID card of some kind to prove who you are? It's about 85 to 90%. Should parents know what's going on in their child's school? That's about an 85 to 90%. I mean, there's an emerging American party. It happens to be Republican, but it's really American. And there's an emerging anti-American weird party called Democrats, and they tend to represent 10 to 15%. These are just, we run a project, as you know, Sean, called America's New Majority Project. These are just facts. I mean, this is not some theory. This is not some philosophy. It is a fact that in almost every major issue where the American people have rendered judgment, the Democrats are against the American people.
All right, Mr. Speaker, always love having you, and I hope you're enjoying your time abroad. But we do miss you when you're not here. All right, thanks for watching. Check out my new podcast, Hanging Out with me, Sean Hannity. The big interviews, the debates you won't get anywhere else. Like and subscribe for new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday.